It's that time of year again. You've got your uncle's cousin's stepson in the family's Secret Santa, and you have no idea what to get them. Well, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, might I suggest a game? Oh my gosh, he said it. He really said it. Anyways, I've put together a holiday gift guide of my top 10 board games that I'll be gifting this year that run the gamut from simple to complex, from budget to deluxe, and everything in between. So if you want to know what board games to give this holiday season, or maybe which ones to get for yourself, then might I suggest Hi, I'm Alex from Might I Suggest a Game, a channel devoted to helping you find your perfect board game. Today, like I mentioned before, I'll be running through my 2024 board game gift guide, where I'll be talking about 10 different games that I love this year that I think someone you know will love too, maybe even you. I've tried to split the list up into different categories, starting with stocking stuffers, aka small boxes that pack a big punch, then moving into family games that play well with people of all ages, and then finally ending with some slightly more strategic games with really robust themes that'll make perfect gifts for the fellow gamers in your life. But as with any list I make, I can't fit every game on there, so if there's a great game that you're giving this year, or if you want advice on a more specific gift-giving situation, make sure to drop me a note down in the comments, and while you're there, don't forget to hit subscribe and that little bell button so you can get notified when I post new content. Anyways, let's get into it. Will one of these board games be the perfect gift for you? Let's find out, shall we? Alright, starting with some stocking stuffers, let's talk about Flip 7. Flip 7 is a push-your-luck card game full of memorable moments from the op that says it plays up to 99 players, although they recommend multiple decks if you're playing with more than 18 people. Either way, you can play this with a bunch of people, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's so fun. Now, Flip 7, according to the box, is the greatest card game of all time. And while I'm sure there will be many debates about that self-proclaimed moniker, the one thing you can't argue is that Flip 7 is really fun. In Flip 7, all you have to do is flip over 7 cards from the deck without getting any repeats. Seems easy enough, right? But here's the twist. Each numbered card has that same number of cards in the deck, so there are 12 12s, 11 11s, 10 10s, etc, etc, so if you flip over a higher card, you're statistically more likely to acquire a repeat, and when you do that, you'll bust and score no points for the round. On your turn, just like blackjack, all you have to do is decide whether to hit or to stay, which means the rules for this game are super easy to pick up, and you can start playing in less than 5 minutes. In fact, this is definitely one of those games that I just set up on the table and start playing, and I'll deal more people in as they inevitably congregate to all the shouting that's going on after someone flips over a big card or totally busts.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
I love games that produce these big, memorable moments at the table. In my opinion, that's what board games are all about, and Flip 7 does that effortlessly. Plus, in addition to the number cards, there are also action cards and modifiers in the deck to boost your score, give you a second chance, or maybe even mess with your opponents, all on your way to hitting 200 points and winning the game. Flip 7 is an absolute blast. It's the perfect stocking stuffer for that friend that's the life of the party, or that family member that likes to hit the casino. So, if you're looking for an Uno replacement for the holidays that'll have the whole crew yelling and laughing around the table, then might I suggest Flip 7. Okay, next up is one I've talked about before on this channel, but that still deserves a spot on this list due to the fact that it might be the perfect stocking stuffer. It's DroPolter. DroPolter is a silly little dexterity game from Oink Games for 2 to 5 players that is just hilariously fun. In this tiny game, you'll have to maneuver these 5 random objects in your hand so that you can drop the right ones onto the table fastest and be the first one to grab the ghost. Each round, you'll flip over a new card that'll tell you which items you need to drop, and as soon as that happens, chaos ensues. If you drop any objects that aren't on the card, you'll have to pick them up and start over. But if you can drop only the right ones, you'll win the round and score a bell, and the first one to 5 bells wins. Which seems pretty easy until you find out that when you earn a bell, you have to put it into your hand with all the other objects, and if you ever drop that bell while you're going for something else, that bell and that point are gone forever. Or until you score another point. It's not that deep. Anyways, DroPolter is another one of those games that you can just learn by playing. It's so simple and easy to get into, and the built-in catch-up mechanism of adding the bells to your hand so that it's harder for you to get more points if you're ahead is absolutely brilliant. Plus, the visuals are so cute and the components are awesome, which is par for the course for Oink Games, to be honest. But if you haven't experienced anything from this amazing Japanese publisher, and if you want your games to feel like you're buying adorable little keepsakes as well, then this will be right up your alley. Anyways, I can't say enough good things about DroPolter. Some of the most fun I've had around a board game table this year have been with this game. It's a perfect stocking stuffer for your work bestie who loves cute and spooky things and little trinkets and all that jazz, or that cousin who's really into sleight of hand magic, although you gotta make sure they're not cheating, of course. So if you want a game that's as easy to learn as it is hilarious to play, and that'll have your game table sounding like Christmas music with the amount of jingle bells you'll be dropping, then might I suggest DroPolter. Alright, I've got one more stocking stuffer for you on the list. It's Sausage Sizzle. Sausage Sizzle is a really clever 15-minute dice game with some adorable Australian animals in it for 2 to 5 players from 25th Century Games, and I don't think I've ever been more excited to lose a board game than when I played this one. In Sausage Sizzle, you'll be rolling your 8 dice to try and score the most points for each of the 6 different animals in your crew. The tricky part is that you can only score for 1 animal per round, and once you've locked in a score for, say, the quokka, you won't be able to score for them again for the rest of the game, which means that even if you roll 4 quokkas later on, you'll be SOL. Each round, you'll multiply the number of like animals you rolled times the lowest value on your red and orange dice to get your score, and whoever finishes with the highest score after 6 rounds wins. Now, all of this would make for a fun little dice game, but the thing that really sends Sausage Sizzle over the top is, well, the sausages. Each of the orange and red dice have sausages on them, which on their own are only worth 1 point, but if you manage to roll a complete bevy of sausages, aka sausages on all of your red and orange die, then you'll be able to multiply your animals times 7 this round, which can really make a huge difference and totally swing the game in your favor. That element of pushing your luck and egging other players on to push theirs is what makes this game so good, and that moment when someone rolls their final sausage on their last roll and everyone erupts into cheers has had more than a few folks at the bar staring at us wondering what we're playing. Like I said before, small games that give you big moments are just such a delight, and Sausage Sizzle is sure to provide those moments every time you get it to the table. This one will be a perfect stocking stuffer for the mom who loves Bunko or Farkle or any of those classic dice games, or the friend who's just about to go to study abroad in Australia, especially because this one's so compact, they'll be able to fit it in their luggage. So if you're looking for a new family dice game that's quick to learn, easy on the eyes, and that'll have everyone around the table yelling "Crikey!" then might I suggest Sausage Sizzle. Alright, now we're moving into my family game suggestions, and man am I excited to talk about this one. It's Wilmot's Warehouse. Wilmot's Warehouse is a cooperative, memory-based storytelling game for 2 to 6 players from CMYK Games, and if that description sounded a bit weird, it's because it is. I play hundreds of games every year, and I can confidently say that Wilmot's Warehouse is totally different than any other game that I've ever played, and that's kind of a big deal. In Wilmot's Warehouse, you'll work together as warehouse employees to place and mentally catalog 35 individual abstract items with the ultimate goal of matching them with their respective customers when the time comes. When I first introduce this game to new folks and I tell them they have to remember 35 of anything, I immediately get some crazy looks, but I always explain right away that you don't have to worry because you're working with collective memory here, and on top of that, you're able to tell the most ridiculous story ever told so that you can remember exactly where everything is. Each turn, you'll flip over a new tile and discuss what it is with your teammates before placing it on the board and flipping it face down. Now, that tile won't be revealed again until after the game is over, but it's part of your story now, so you won't forget it, right? Anyways, you'll keep placing more tiles, expanding your story, and reviewing it with your teammates until all of the stacks are empty, at which point you'll split up the customer deck, start a timer, and then try and remember where everything is in as little time as possible. The faster you complete your tasks, the better you score, but really, you're all winners, because you just learned how to hack your memory with silly stories and different methods of visual categorization. One thing I love about this game is how fun it is to play with folks of all ages. I've played it with middle schoolers and with grandparents, and it's so easy to pick up that people are invested right from the get-go. Plus, when you're done with it, you really feel that sense of accomplishment, not just from having satisfied your customers, but from learning something new and doing something that seems so impossible just minutes ago. This game is a perfect gift for the whole family, for someone like my dad who's always looking for ways to keep his memory sharp as he gets older, or for a college kid who's looking for ways to improve their creativity and lateral thinking skills. So if you're a parent trying to sneak in real-world applications and skills to your family game night, or if you're a kid looking for a super fun way to connect with your folks from a different generation, then might I suggest Wilmot's Warehouse. Okay, the next one really reminded me of my childhood. It's the first of hopefully many board game collaborations with LEGO. It's Monkey Palace. Monkey Palace is a puzzly family-weight game for 2 to 4 players that takes all of the nostalgic bricklaying fun of playing with Legos and combines it with some simple board game mechanics to make an experience that's perfect for your next family game night. In Monkey Palace, you'll take turns using your bricks, arches, and columns to add to the structure on the table, trying always to build a little bit higher than the last person to gain bonus points and ultimately win the monkey's favor. The more arches you use, the more monkey credits you get to spend on these cards, which will give you more bricks right away, but also provide you with some income at the end of each of your turns. Collect the right pieces to maximize your income each round to earn the most banana points and win the game. I love Monkey Palace because it's just such a cool concept. I mean, everyone loves Legos, and the idea of using them to introduce more people to the world of board games is brilliant. If you know how to build with Legos, then you're old enough to play the game, and the rules are simple enough that they're easy to pick up, but still provide plenty of strategy for you in every game. I'm always on the lookout for games that are fun for parents and kids to play together, and Monkey Palace has to be my front runner in in this category in 2024. One of the things I love about this game is that it's both tactical and tactile at the same time. I really enjoyed fidgeting with my bricks and arches as I planned out my move each turn and tried to keep track of all the different possibilities as the palace on the board grew and evolved. Plus, there's a really good tension between going for better income and taking banana points right now, because it's tough to tell exactly when the game is going to come to an end. I mean, every time I played this game, it was so quick that there was always someone talking about how they needed one more turn to make this awesome play, and to me that's just a sign of good action economy and also an excuse to just play it again. Monkey Palace is a blast. It's perfect for kids or adults who love Legos, or parents who wish that Lego time was a little bit more social. So if you're looking for that perfect bridge between activity and competition for your next family game night that'll double as an awesome centerpiece once you finish off your palace, then might I suggest Monkey Palace. Okay, this next one really surprised me this year. I thought it was just going to be another Cascadia knockoff, but it turns out it might actually be the replacement for Cascadia in my collection. It's Harmonies. Harmonies is a really clever nature-building game for 1 to 4 players from Libbyud, and to be honest, I was a bit wary of this game at first because it got a ton of hype when it first came out, and usually when games have those super high expectations, there's a much higher chance of being disappointed when you finally play it. But I'm happy to announce that for me, Harmonies lived up to the hype, and I hope that it will for you too. In Harmonies, you'll be drafting these colorful discs to place on your board to build different natural formations which have their own individual scoring conditions. That alone would be enough of a puzzle, to be honest, but on top of placing these formations, Harmonies encourages you to find, well, harmony, I guess, with the fauna that live in these ecosystems too. You can draft different animals that love to live in very specific formations, and if you can build those formations in different areas on your board, you'll attract the animals and earn more points. At the end of the game, if you played well of course, your score will be pretty evenly distributed between points for your formations and points for the animals in those formations. So if you can find the perfect harmony between the two, you'll rack up the highest score and win the game. One of the things I love so much about this game is how it rewards efficiency and planning a few steps ahead. Each animal card has a specific formation on it, but if you can get multiple animal cards that use the same building blocks, then you can score 2 birds with 1 stone. I love when games promote that synergy, and this game is chock full of that. I also really appreciate the simplicity of the game mechanics. I mean, all you have to do on your turn is draft some discs and place them, and maybe draft a card if you want.
Could it really be that simple?
This simplicity of rule set makes it easy to get into and to get started with, and the real strategy of the game reveals itself towards the end of the game when you start the scoring. Most people I've played this with have that aha moment near the end and understand how they would have done things a little differently, which just means they want to play again right away. This game is perfect for your friends who love cute animals or your parents who are obsessed with their daily puzzles, plus it's got a solo mode built in so they can play it even when you're not around. So if you're looking for a cute and cozy game that emphasizes finding that perfect balance between fun and strategy, then might I suggest Harmonies. Alright, this is the last suggestion in the family game portion of this video. I was going through my logged plays of the year and I realized that this one really stood out as being both a game that's great for new players and one that feels both fresh and familiar at the same time. It's Adulthood. Adulthood is a new take on the game of life for 1 to 4 players from Brotherwise Games, and I think it really takes the life simulator genre of board games to the next level. Unlike Harmonies, Adulthood received almost no hype when it came out. I have a suspicion that this was because it was released right around the same time as its publisher Brotherwise Games was launching the Cosmere RPG, aka the most successful tabletop Kickstarter of all time. So they probably didn't have much time to talk about this one, especially because it has a decidedly more whimsy theme. But even with no hype, I'm so glad that I got a chance to try this one because it has become a staple in my board game recommendation repertoire ever since. In Adulthood, you'll take turns spending your time on either career, community, leisure, or wellness activities, with the ultimate goal of balancing your happiness and your impact on the world. Each round, you can take steps towards improving the actions that you've got available to you by drafting new activities, living new experiences, or even finding a new relationship. Each of these actions will help you progress into adulthood and acquire new skills that'll help you curate a life that aligns with your values, which coincidentally are also endgame objective cards that you can reveal throughout the game. The game will end once one player's happiness and positive impact tracks meet, at which point you'll add those 2 scores together plus any happiness and impact bonuses you may have received during the game, and whoever has the most points wins. One of the reasons why I love recommending this game is that there really haven't been that many entries into this life simulation genre of board games, and certainly nothing on the scale of the game of life, so it's been slim pickings anytime I have to convince people to get something different. I can now confidently steer folks away from that railroaded, luck-based train wreck of a game, because I have something that does what it does, but better. This game is perfect for anyone who has a rundown copy of the game of life gathering dust in their basement, or who just wants to escape real life for a moment without having to create an entirely new save file on The Sims. So if you're looking for an easy and intuitive game of life that doesn't take itself too seriously, but still provides a strategic board gaming experience that's different every time you play it, then might I suggest Adulthood. Alright, technically we're moving on to the more strategic portion of these recommendations, but I'd still consider this next one as pretty light as far as board games go. It's Let's Go to Japan. Let's Go to Japan is a tableau building itinerary planning game for 1 to 4 players from AEG, and if you've ever wanted to make a Japan trip happen at any point in your life, this one is a no-brainer for you. In Let's Go to Japan, players will be drafting activity cards from either the Tokyo or the Kyoto deck, and choosing which ones to participate in and when. The game is played over the course of 6 days, and each day has a specific theme to it, whether that's shopping, or visiting temples, or just exploring nature. And just like any good trip planner would do, you'll have to pay attention to where each of the activities are located, because if you want to travel from Tokyo to Kyoto, or vice versa, you'll have to plan ahead and buy a ticket for the Shinkansen as well. Once each day is populated with 3 activities, a good reminder not to overexert yourself of course, the game will end and each player will take a turn narrating their itinerary day by day and scoring accordingly, and whoever has the most points at the end of the week has officially planned the best trip to Japan and won the game. Now I'd be lying if I said I'd love this game just for the mechanics. I mean, a big factor of me even getting interested in this game in the first place was the nostalgia for my Japan trip that my wife and I took in 2018, but I think that's one of the things that makes this game so good. It was awesome seeing some of the things that we did in the game, and a lot of the things we didn't. And if the goal of the game was to get me to want to plan my next trip to Japan, it certainly succeeded there. I also just loved how simple the mechanics were. I mean, at its core, it's just a pick and pass system a la Sushi Go, but some of the decisions that you have to make when you don't get past the cards you need, or you get past too many good cards and you have to give some of them up, make for a surprisingly strategic experience as you work to amass just the right amount of symbols in just the right order. This game feels really accessible to the common layperson, but still hides a depth of strategy that any experienced board gamer will love. It's a perfect gift for your group chat that's been throwing around the idea of a Japan trip for years, or for your retired aunt and uncle who are always looking for new travel destinations to experience. So if you don't have enough cash yet to be planning a whole Japan trip, but you want to be ready for when you do, and you want a game that truly encapsulates that process that'll give you ideas for when that trip of a lifetime rolls around, then might I suggest Let's Go to Japan. Alright, next up is another beautiful looking tableau building game, but this time we're definitely taking a step up in complexity. It's Daybreak. Daybreak is a cooperative game about saving the world from climate change for 1 to 4 players from CMYK Games, and to be honest, I've been raving about this one for a hot minute now. If you didn't get a chance to watch my video on my top games of the year so far, then spoiler alert, this one won my top overall game award, which is kind of a big deal, and if you want to know more of my thoughts on this one, then you can watch that video next. But anyways, in the game, you'll play as different nations around the world working together to preserve the environment and enact climate-saving policies that'll help the world reach carbon drawdown and protect the planet for its future inhabitants. To do all of this, you'll be building a card engine to reduce your own personal emissions and convert your dirty energy to clean energy, while also working with other nations to address any climate emergencies that may arise that could affect all of you. I love how this game really promotes that sense of cooperation while still giving you the agency to do what you need to do on your own board. There are so many actions flying around in this one that it's really difficult for any other player to be watching what's going on in your nation, which all but removes the quarterbacking issue that a lot of cooperative games are known for. A classic example of this is Pandemic, where one person can basically direct everyone to do the most optimal plan, which helps you win the game but kinda sucks all the fun out of it. Funny enough though, the designer of Pandemic, Matt Leacock, is one of the co-designers of Daybreak, and I really think he's improved on his cooperative disaster relief system with this new addition. I also think that it should be mentioned that CMYK Games really knocked it out of the park with the eco-friendly production and graphic layout of this game. For a game system that has a lot of quirks in it, they did a wonderful job of having intuitive iconography and a really well-designed rulebook that makes the learning and playing process so much smoother. Plus, I mean, that front cover is absolutely gorgeous. Who wouldn't want that as a gift? Anyways, this game is perfect for your eco-conscious auntie who recycles old expansion boxes into fertilizer, or for your Gen Z whiz kid who's just figuring out how to grapple with everything that's going on in the world. So if you're looking for a challenging but optimistic board game that proves that working together really is the best way to save the world, then might I suggest Daybreak. Alright, I saved this one for last on my list because I needed to give it some time to really age to perfection. It's Fromage. Fromage is a cheese crafting, aging, and selling game for 1 to 4 players from Road to Infamy Games, and I've been excited for this one to drop since the beginning of the year. No, really, I talked about it in my most anticipated games of the year video back in January, and now that it's dropping at retail stores at the end of the month, I can finally recommend it without reservations. In Fromage, you'll play as cheesemakers, collecting resources, crafting your cheeses on the board, and letting them age to perfection before you sell them off to score points and win the game. The coolest part about this game for me is the rondelle, aka the cheese wheel that all of your workers will be placed on. The cheese wheel rotates in between every round, which represents the passage of time, and your workers will become available to you as it rotates based on what level of cheese you made with them. The greater the value of the cheese, the longer it takes for your worker to return to your supply, which makes the timing in this game just as important as the worker placement aspect of it. It kind of feels like a streamlined, more accessible version of Tzolk'in with really similar thematic elements to viticulture as well, both of which are highly regarded in the board game space and worker placement genre, and I think Fromage stacks up to both of them. The action economy in this game is such a puzzle, and you're constantly having to look ahead and see what section of the cheese wheel is coming your way so that you can make sure you have the right amount of workers at the right time, and that thinkiness combined with the intuitive nature of all of the actions on the board really make for a wonderfully streamlined game. Plus, all of your turns in the game are taken simultaneously, which really cuts down on the playtime of games like this, where at least you can be doing something while that player with analysis paralysis is waffling over their decisions again. This one is super strategic and surprisingly fast. It's the perfect gift for any diehard fans of viticulture, either the game or the actual practice, or for your friends who are lactose intolerant and like to get their cheese vicariously. So if you're looking for a medium weight strategy game that has beautiful art, a well integrated theme, solid strategic gameplay, and that does all of that without overstaying its welcome, then might I suggest Fromage. Thanks so much for sticking around for my 2024 holiday gift guide. I hope this list helps you feel a little less overwhelmed when you step into your local game store on Black Friday or when you're just brainstorming for gifts for your friends this year. I'd love to hear which board games you're hoping to get this holiday season down in the comments. I'll make sure to keep them public too, so that when your friends stumble across this video, they'll know exactly what to get you this year. Anyways, thanks so much for everyone who supported the channel so far. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so I can keep growing this channel and keep helping you find your perfect board game. Once again, this has been a Might I Suggest a Game production, and I'm Alex, your board game sommelier, signing off.